Final question: Would you take Big Ange?
No.
No.
He does always win things in his second season. It might be the championship trophy, maybe.
Michael, how are you doing today, my friend?
Hi, gents. How are you? I'm good, thanks.
He's on mute. He's on our side.
No, I can hear him. Can you?
I'm unplugged.
Yeah, very good, mate. Very good. Very excited about the impending Thomas Frank appointment to Tottenham Hotspur. Just first and foremost, what's your initial thoughts and reaction to the potential move?
I've made a few videos about it, to be honest. I'm super surprised that you guys have got rid of Ange. I thought it was a case of, I want to say the majority of Tottenham fans didn't want him to go after the Europa League. I know it was a bit different beforehand, and it was kind of if he won or if he lost the final, that a lot of people thought that he should go. But then after kind of winning it, it kind of flips on its head. We've been, as Brentford fans, kind of preparing for Thomas Frank to leave for a while, but for some reason in my head, I couldn't picture a world where Thomas Frank isn't our manager. He's the second longest serving manager in the EFL. He's done such a great job for us over the last sort of 7-8 years. The manager that took us into the Prem, he's kept us there, going into our 5th consecutive season in the Prem. To be honest, it's devastating. But Brentford, based on the evidence of the last kind of 10 years under the ownership of Matthew Benham, we've got really secure management structure in place. I think we'll be fine. There's a lot of doom and gloom in Brentford circles, but I think we'll be fine. We'll make a smart appointment, hopefully. But yeah, no, it's gutting to lose Thomas Frank, because I think when you think about Brentford, you immediately think about him. He's the kind of figurehead. He's the one that brings it all together. And yeah, you're getting a really, really top manager, at least from our perspective.
Yeah, before he came in, am I correct in saying you had a lot of playoff kind of finishes, didn't you? And you never really got over the line. And he kind of came in and obviously I think he lost in a playoff final and then won the next one, right, in his second season. So and then obviously he's now taken you from that point to a team that's consistently been in the Premier League for 4 years and impressed a lot of people. So what do you think he's implemented and changed in that time since he took over?
I think he's just set a culture. He talks about it a lot in his press conferences. The one thing that I can say about Thomas Frank, and that maybe you haven't had with past managers at Tottenham, is that he is someone that has completely brought the fan base on board with the players, with the management, with everything about the club. I think what I said earlier in terms of when you think about Brentford, you think about Thomas Frank. That's obviously a consequence of his management. One thing I will say about him is that he comes across as a brilliant leader, someone that the players love, someone that the fans love, and kind of inspiring that connection goes a long way. It's not something you can really measure, but I don't think you won't find a Brentford fan that has a bad word to say about Thomas Frank. And I think particularly in modern day football, that's super rare. He's someone that inspires a lot of devotion from his players, someone that inspires a lot of devotion from the fans as well. And I think when he came in, it was kind of an unknown because he'd been at Brøndby before. He was the assistant to Dean Smith before he left to Aston Villa. And I wouldn't be surprised, just from a Brentford kind of point of view, I wouldn't be surprised if we're now looking to kind of do the same thing in terms of maybe not going for a manager outside the club and looking to promote from within, because it went so well for us the last time. But I think he knows. The thing is with Brentford as well, and I mentioned it in a video that I did recently about the kind of the structures at Tottenham and how recruitment works. At Brentford, it works like clockwork, and the kind of recruitment policy we have with the sporting directors and the technical directors, Lee Dykes and Phil Giles, and the way that we recruit players through data, similar way to how Brighton do it as well. Thomas Frank completely brought into that, and while he had the last say on transfers, it was it all just ran perfectly together. So he's kind of fully bought into that process, and obviously he's taken the club from the sort of mid-table championship club to the Premier League. So he's changed a lot, but he's worked in unison with the kind of background processes of Brentford as well.
What do you make out of him making the step now to a club like Tottenham? Do you feel like this is going to be a good move for Spurs? There's a bit of kind of anxiety within the Spurs fan base that they haven't seen him do it on the kind of big stage that maybe previous managers, Mourinho, Conte, these kind of guys. Ange obviously has come here with a CV with trophies behind him. There are kind of some Spurs fans thinking, well, look, this guy's done a good job at Brentford, but ultimately he's only finished mid-table in his career. What would you say to those Spurs fans? Is he going to be a good manager for Spurs?
Well, You say that he's only finished mid-table with Brentford. It's Brentford. Do you know what I
No,
mean?
I agree with you, but I'm just saying some Spurs fans out there.
Yeah, I mean, to that I would say he's not had the chance to do it at one of the top clubs. If you do well at a club like Brentford, then you're going to get cherry picked by some of the bigger clubs. That's the risk that Tottenham are willing to take. I think it's a risk for Thomas Frank personally to
Mm,
do it. I think that he could have held out for a club that maybe could be challenging or is in Europe on a consistent basis. And I feel like with the turbulence around Spurs, it's a risk on both parties' sides. But the argument that he's not won anything, Poch hadn't won anything before he came to Spurs.
correct.
Thomas Frank hadn't done anything before he got appointed at Brentford, and look at us now. I think relative to the size of the club, what Thomas Frank has done over the last 5 years at Brentford, if you look at the wage structure and the players that we bring in, is nothing short of a miracle. So the people
I
saying
agree.
what is he won argument, it doesn't really stand up in my book.
Yeah.
He's known, Frank, as being like very tactically flexible, isn't he? Has a various systems that he can change to kind of interchangeably, even within game and in between games. Do you feel like what even within that, there's still very much a core identity to how he plays and how he sets up his team? Because sometimes when you have managers who kind of chop and change a lot, they sometimes lack an identity despite the fact that they're changing formations. But how do you feel like you'd say about Frank's maybe identity in the football he plays?
I think you're spot on in that he's very tactically flexible. I think in the first kind of couple of seasons we were in the Prem, we used the back five quite a lot. We played to Ivan Toney's strengths a lot as well. But in terms of the identity, I think you're going to get attacking football. I think Thomas Frank's sort of CV and his record of improving attacking players in particular is phenomenal. You look at players like Ollie Watkins. Thomas Frank was the one that moved him from the left to a central striker, then went on to score 25 goals in the Championship, got his big move to Aston Villa. You look at a player like Said Benrahma when he came to the club, moved to West Ham, didn't quite work out for him, but he was one of the best players I've ever seen play for Brentford, and that happened under Thomas Frank too. Neil Maupay, same thing. Ivan Toney, same thing. With these players, or with the attacking players that you've got at Tottenham currently, they're only going to get better with Thomas Frank. At least that's what I can say from the evidence that I have of him. But in terms of the identity, yeah, I think he's definitely got one. But it's changed and it will be different at Tottenham because you're aiming at different things. I think what we've seen at Brentford now going into this is our fourth season in the Prem, we've seen a kind of reversion back to type of how we used to play in the Championship, which is a lot more expansive. The ball is along the ground a lot more. The goalkeeper touches the ball. It's slow build up. Whereas in the first couple of seasons, we were kind of way more direct and used Ivan Toney to our strengths quite a lot. And we actually got quite close to getting European football in that second season. So you've got someone with a strong identity. There's always lots of goals, but you've also got someone that kind of knows how to get points, especially in the Premier League. And it's going to be a lot easier for Tottenham to get points because you've got better players. But yeah, I'd be excited about, particularly in an attacking sense. You look at players like Brennan Johnson. We were after Brennan Johnson before you guys got him. I'd expect him to come on leaps and bounds under Thomas Frank. And also, I've seen rumours about potentially him wanting to bring Brian Mbeumo to the club. Nathan Collins is another one that I've seen linked. Since it looks like this is happening today. I would be devastated if you took Nathan Collins. I think Brian Mbeumo's out the door anyway. But Nathan Collins would be a little bit annoyed at Thomas Frank if he did that. I think all of the evidence we have so far, like I go back to this argument, and this kind of talks back to the argument when he's never done it or he's never won any trophies. For a club like Brentford, I just think it goes under the radar so much for a club like Brentford and the only way that we have been looking really and truly since we've been in the Prem is up. We almost got Europe this season. We almost got Europe a couple of seasons ago. Last season was a bit of a blip. But as you guys will appreciate, we had a massive injury crisis last season, and it was just unprecedented the amount of injuries we had in key positions. But for a club like Brentford to have only been looking up and really thinking about this summer if we'd have kept Thomas Frank, to really be thinking, right, well, we need to kind of actually mount a kind of push into the European places, it's remarkable. So all the evidence on that side, I think, points towards it being a really smart appointment. But like you said, he hasn't done it at that level before, so you just have to kind of wait and see. But his first game is going to be against PSG, so who knows?
Where, Michael, where would you, as a Brentford fan, rank him in terms of in the Premier League? Like, where in terms of quality of manager, where do you think he ranks in the Premier League?
I think he's elite. I think he's right up there. Honestly, that's why I said I think he could have held out for a kind of maybe not held out, because I think when you get an opportunity like this, you have to kind of take it. But I think, when Klopp left, I think he was in the running to I think the Liverpool structure were looking at him as a potential replacement for Klopp at Liverpool. I think he's that good. And I think it could be the start. I don't want to romanticize it heavily, but it could be the start of his kind of career as a top level manager. I think you only need to, and I know Pep Guardiola praises a lot of teams right before he's about to beat them or right after he's beat them 6-0. But the telling thing was when we played Man City, we did the double over Man City one season, home and away, when they won the treble. And after that game, he was so complimentary, Thomas Frank. We played them again this season, and he said something like, "I'm good at a lot of things, but I know when I see a good manager, and it's only a matter of time for Thomas Frank." So if you've got arguably the best manager in the history of the game saying that about Thomas Frank, he's probably in the best place to do that.
Oh, Michael, you're definitely getting me very excited for Thomas Frank. I'm not going to lie. Final question: Would you take Big Ange?
No.
No, you wouldn't want to. Just one of your.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking. No, I've seen a lot of rumours. I don't think that the club would be willing to do that just because of where you guys fell down this season and the sort of all guns blazing. It would be a complete opposite appointment to Thomas Frank because he's, and I know Postecoglou has shown a bit of pragmatism towards the back end of his Spurs career, but Thomas Frank is ultra pragmatic, whilst having a good blend of that kind of Ange style football as well. To go and kind of seesaw the other way, I'm not sure it would work out. He does always win things in his second season. It might be the Championship trophy, maybe.
Michael, thank you so much for coming on. I guarantee you've got the majority of our viewers excited, so thank you.
Cheers,
thank you,
guys.
Michael.